All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and I have 7 more harsh opinions for you guys related to Galaxy of Heroes. Unlike the first video, if you guys didn't catch that, I will link it in the channel description down below. We will not just be focusing on characters this time. There's going to be some other things related to Galaxy of Heroes in here, so I'm kind of excited. I hope you guys enjoy this series. Again, it's something I'll try and do. I don't know if it'll be exactly, on the week, but I'll try and do it pretty regularly because it is fun. Hopefully it adds a little bit of humor to the channel that I know sometimes can be missing because I am really just focusing on giving you guys the advice to make your account as good as it can possibly be. So let's dive in here, guys. And the first thing we're going to look at, Starkiller is better in Territory Wars than GAC. I actually think this for multiple reasons. And hear me out. Everybody's going to flame me for this, but hear me out. In Territory Wars, he only needs 1 Omicron. Really 2 Omicrons, you could argue. Mara Jade and Juhani. Even without the Mara Jade Omicron, Juhani still completely adds a layer of complexity that is missing from Starkiller. She's amazing. I think it's a much better team. I actually would argue too that Starkiller is much tougher to clean up in Territory Wars than he would be inside of a GAC. So I think he's better in Territory Wars. I think it's when people say he's a great investment for GAC, he absolutely is, don't get me wrong. But if you had to completely look at this from a investment perspective on where you're going to get bang for your buck, Territory Wars is the answer for him. And the reason I say that is with the Juhani Omicron, Commander Luke Skywalker, and Mara Jade as well, they will really struggle against a Starkiller team like CLS will. But in GAC, CLS can really dominate this team. Datacrons aside, right? Datacrons will completely change that. But I'm telling you guys, Starkiller is better in Territory War, and people are not going to like me saying that because it's something that I see. I don't even have the Juhani Omicron, and I can recognize that Starkiller is better in Territory War. So I guess maybe I'll say this. The argument people could make is that the Starkiller squad is better in Territory War. Maybe that's the way to go. But anyway, yeah, better in Territory Wars. All right, this next category here, you guys are not going to like me saying this, especially some people, but GAC is not the only way to measure skill, and there's not only skill involved in GAC. I just have characters in here with Omicrons, and one of them being our King Wampa. You guys know I got to sneak him in here somehow. If you want to see this channel Relic 8 Wampa, right? I guess if you want to see me Relic 8 Wampa live on this channel, all you need to do, get this channel to 5,000 subscribers. We hit 5,000 subs. Wampa hits Relic 8. You guys have been flying through subs. We are growing so fast this month. You guys are amazing. And hopefully you guys see some changes coming to the channel soon that you will appreciate, maybe make the quality of videos a little bit better. So stay tuned for that, guys. But I just have these here as a placeholder. GAC is not the only way to measure skill. Because there's all these Omicrons in GAC, and if someone invests their Omicrons in Territory Wars, they don't do as well in GAC because they invested those better things in Territory Wars or Territory Battles or whatever, right? You can't just measure skill in GAC. It's a lot of fun. It's the easiest way, I think, for people to measure skill, but it's not the only way. And I think that we so often just say, oh, this guy's really good because they do well in GAC, and completely forget that there's 5 other game modes to measure how good a player is. So I wanted to put that out there, especially for myself sometimes. I fall into this trap as well that I throw everything and say, oh, you're good because you do well in GAC. There's a lot more to this game than GAC, and don't think because you don't do well in GAC you're not a good player, because there's so many other factors that fall into GAC than just being good at the game. All right, you guys know that this is one of my pet peeves, but it has to make one of the harsh opinions, right? If you're free to play, we don't care, right? That's the, pull out the Stephen A. Smith, we don't care, right? Let me tell you something, we don't care. I don't care if you spend money or if you don't spend money. That's not a concern of mine. I don't look down on you if you do. I don't look up to you if you don't. It doesn't matter. The only time it matters is if somebody directly asks you, especially I'll say if you're asking someone for roster advice and you're saying, hey, I'm going to be spending $10 a week, $20 a week, or I don't spend money. That's the only time it can make a difference. And even then, it won't always make a difference. If it's $10 a week, it's probably not going to make enough of a difference for you to mention it. If you're spending $100 a week, okay, it's going to change the way, the advice people give you. So just keep that in mind. I don't being free to play used to mean, I think being, the words FTP, right, or free to play used to mean a lot more that I think now it's just completely lost its, I said this before and I need to bring this up again because it is such a, like we don't care. It's just lost a lot of its meaning in the game. So we're going to keep going there. All right. This is another one that you guys are not going to like, but Commander Luke Skywalker is the worst member of his team. There, I said it. All right. And I'm going to prove it to you guys. So when we go into Rebels, when you think about how you use this team in 3v3, Han Solo and Chewbacca, like that, I've used them solo before, just the two of them together, right? Like you don't really need those two with CLS. They work with Beskar Mermando, Dash Rendar. I've seen people use them with Queel lead. Like it's like, and Queel doesn't even have a leadership. He just has a good unique. These guys are so good. And they definitely, carry that. They definitely do some carrying on that team. But then you've also got C-3PO and 3PO and Chewie. And here's why I say Commander Luke Skywalker is the worst member. I love Commander Luke. You guys know this is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite squad in the game. But 3PO and Chewie and C-3PO, you can even run them under Admiral Akbar in 3v3. Because remember, with Admiral Akbar lead, just to show you guys, whenever an ally uses an ability that isn't an attack, they call a random rebel ally to assist. Well, who's already assisting every time somebody uses their basic ability or uses ability? 3PO and Chewie. C-3PO doesn't have an attack ability in his, toolkit, so he's constantly calling 3PO and Chewie to assist. If C-3PO is landing all those exposes, like this team all of a sudden gets really, really good. And again, it's an example, but I've seen people who place this down and then use Commander Luke Skywalker kind of elsewhere or not even use CLS because those characters can be used elsewhere and they're really good. Now, I think a lot of times the popular thing to do, and this is what I do, use Commander Luke with C-3PO and 3PO and Chewie. And then CLS can shine a little bit more, but you can use these guys in so many different ways that I think like Commander Luke being that worst member is, it's a harsh opinion, but you guys can see where I'm heading here. Like 3PO, you could throw him with Galactic Republic. You could throw him with Ewoks. He's got some other uses here. 3PO and Chewie, he does have the droid tag, so you could use him with Shorty. And Commander Luke Skywalker, even though he's got this unaligned Force user tag, I mean, you're not going to use him with Starkiller. He just doesn't have enough utility for that team. Visa Smar is a much better fit than Commander Luke. So, again, guys, harsh opinion, Commander Luke is the worst member of this team. All right, next one. GP isn't everything. So this is a hot take, right? I think people are seeing this more and more, but I want to explain really what I mean. So me having 8.3 million galactic power is meaningless. When you just look at someone's account, their galactic power is meaningless because it's what makes up that galactic power, right? It's what do you have? What does that? And not even this first row of galactic legends. What does the rest of the account look like? I've seen plenty of accounts that have more galactic legends than me, more galactic power, more galactic legends, and I would argue they have a weaker account because they don't have some of those other gaps or some of those other things. People could argue that about my account. I have plenty of gaps that I don't have that make my roster significantly weaker. That's perfectly okay. I recognize that my account needs a lot of work to get to where I really want it to be. But recognize, guys, that galactic power is meaningless. It's meaningless at every other point except 4 million GP when you unlock hard mode conquest and proving grounds. Outside of that, galactic power means nothing. It's just it's a cool thing to say you're at 4 million, 5 million, 6, right? Those are all great milestones and that, it's fun to post about them. But there's no difference in being 7.00000 million and 6.9, right? Like who cares? It's not everything in this game. And I think sometimes we really get in that mindset that galactic power is this like overly important thing. They can take this out of the game. They can take this number out and it changes nothing about the game except proving grounds and hard mode conquest, which they could find a way to do that. Like that's how little it means in this game. That's a rant I really wasn't intending today. All right. Very important here. So what's my harsh opinion? My harsh opinion for here is actually about players like myself and other, people who create content. Sometimes we almost lead you astray a little bit when we talk about galactic legends and we say, oh, like Rollo, Captain Han, and Krennic and Tarkin, they're not the greatest characters. When this is like your first GL, or like your First Order, like Captain Phasma. When you look at those characters, and we'll go to the Rebels, right? Jedi Master Luke. Like when one of some of your first relics, right? If you rush Jedi Knight Luke and you get Rebel Officer Leia Organa, Captain Han, Lando, it doesn't matter if they're not these great characters in the end game. At the point in time that you unlock them, they're some of your only relic characters, and that is so important. So I think, and I will 100% admit that I've said this to you guys, and I do apologize that I don't always talk about it a little bit more, but these guys serve huge importance to your roster early on for a very long time, and still even I might use these guys on defense just to fill slots, because that's just the state that my account is in at 8.3 million against the people I'm facing. But when you're an early level player, those early relics that you're going to have, like on your First Order characters here, right? The Captain Phasmas, these guys, yes, in the end game, they're not the greatest. Even like First Order TIE Pilot, that's a much better 3v3 Omicron than 5v5. But these guys form a backbone to your roster that otherwise is missing. And I think that sometimes we don't appreciate that, yes, in the end game, they're not good. But early on, they're important. And I want to say that I do apologize I don't mention that more, because I don't want you guys to think you shouldn't use them. Like, that is perfectly okay for a very long time to put those in your defenses, because before you get to that end game where you're starting to get some of those other characters, some of those other squads, those things you built for that Galactic Legend are a vital part of the backbone of your team. So again, I want to preface that. I think it's important for you guys to see that. Okay. Saving the best for last here. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren about to be trash. Oh, all right, let me prepare myself for the comments section here. Whew, okay, we're ready. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren is about to be trash, guys. When this new Krayt Dragon raid comes out, first, the best thing about Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, in my opinion, has always been his ability to solo all of the raids, right? His PvE viability outweighs everything else. He's great in PvP, don't get me wrong, but his PvE just elevates him to a level that none of the other Galactic Legends are at. In my personal opinion, that's where I think he is. That no lifter units required to solo raids. He just is that good, and he's super cheap. But unless he gets a lifter unit that puts him with that, Rey, Ben Solo viability in GAC, Territory Wars, he's about to lose a lot of value. About to be trash is maybe a bit harsh, but that's the whole point of this video, right? But I think with this new Krayt Dragon raid, Hutt Cartel, Jabba's your new, he's the new PvE GL, right? He's that new Galactic Legend that they're even designing game modes for. So the Kylo, because he can't be used in that raid, and again, if they release a raid that First Order's good in, hey, Kylo's amazing again, and Jabba's, trash. Who knows? But Jabba's never going to be trash because of all the stuff they've given him. But Kylo, I think, is about to lose a lot of value, because the best part about him is people being able to do really well in the Challenge Pit raid, the Heroic Sith, the AAT raid's probably on Sim for a lot of guilds. So with those things kind of falling to the wayside, and the Krayt Dragon raid being the only raid that most guilds, especially at the end level, are going to be doing, Kylo is going to lose value. And again, I'm not saying for the early game that Kylo can't be good, but you may as well just go for Jabba the Hutt because of everything else that's happening. And it's sad. I mean, you almost have to salute his service, right? We'll hold a moment of silence here for Supreme Leader Kylo Ren for all the years of service he's given us as the king of PvE content in this game, guys. So if you can join me in a moment of solidarity in saluting our king of PvE, as he is probably about to retire here soon. Thank you for your service, Kylo. Guys, harsh opinion on it, but I think, he's still going to be good. His fleet's still going to counter execute all those things. But for me, the biggest benefit was always raids. So those are 7 harsh opinions, guys. I think I'm going to get a lot more flack in the comments for this one than I did the first one. But I think these are all things that I see, that I kind of have been looking at and that I noticed. So again, going back through them Starkiller guys, he's definitely better in Territory Wars. I don't care what people say. He's way better in Territory Wars. It basically, it takes a lot more to defeat that team. Again, GAC is not the only way to measure skill. That's the biggest thing. It's not that it doesn't take skill, but it's not the only way to measure skill. And that not everything in GAC is purely based on skill, because there's There's RNG that can play a factor. I don't care what people say. RNG can play a factor. You've got the matchmaking that's so messed up. Again, if you're FTP, we don't care. Commander Luke Skywalker, definitely the worst member on his team. I think that's it's a harsh opinion. I could see the argument maybe, but I feel like the rest of these characters all have uses outside of this team, whereas Commander Luke Skywalker, not so much. And that's okay, right? He is the glue that he binds all things, kind of like his kitten here. He binds all things. He binds these characters together that without him, these characters still have uses, but together they have the best use. GP isn't everything, guys. Just please understand that galactic power doesn't mean nearly as much. These characters early on, when you get them in these relics, it's important. It's important you get the use out of them. It's important that you're recognizing the value they have to your roster just because they have relics, and that's important. And then finally, guys, Kylo, when this Great Dragon raid launches, I have a feeling that unless Capital Games has some grand plan, he's about to be trash. And that's okay. We salute his service one last time and thank him for the years of being king of PvE. Guys, like and subscribe, comment down below. Remember, Kylo is the king of PvE, but Wampa is the king of our hearts, guys. Get him to Relic 8 by getting this channel to 5,000 subs. I love all of you. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Cheers.